So today we have the recap for the second half of the FF7 Ever Crisis special event, Ever Crisis Academy 7, episode Brawler, which sees our characters transported to a high school environment in the style of a visual novel. So will our main characters put their differences aside and decide to play some baseball? And what were young Sephiroth and Angeal like in high school as well? Let's find out in today's recap. So if any of that sounds cool to you, feel free to click the like button, and if you're new here and you'd like to stick around, you can subscribe and let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. So for the second half review, we will be pulling from Foz, who has been doing an incredible job archiving all of this Ever Crisis stuff. So I'll leave a link in the description to their channel as well as this upload so you guys can watch it in 4K and fully appreciate it from beginning to end and really hear that incredible music. Again, they've been knocking it out of the park with the soundtrack for Ever Crisis, and the music in this event is no exception. It's wonderful. I'll also leave a link to our part 1 recap just to get you guys up to speed so you guys know what's going on. But just as a quick reminder, we, the viewer, are the main character in this event. We are a student teacher at 7th High witnessing all these shenanigans. So we open up with day 4. It's surprisingly a normal day. Everything has gone well at school, no fights, nothing weird. Zack is probably in class, which is a big shocker. But as we're heading home, we run into Tifa, and she's worried because she doesn't know where Cloud is, and he's been missing for 2 full days, which is not like him. In her worry, she opens up to us and says that she feels like this whole obsession Cloud has with becoming Midgard, Brawler First Class, is her fault. Because when they were kids, they were harassed by another group of kids, which led to a fight. Now, Cloud did fight them off, but he almost got seriously hurt. And ever since then, he's not only been obsessed with fighting, but becoming that first-class brawler. And for Tifa, she doesn't like it. She really just misses the Cloud that she used to know. So again, I really love this event because they're using actual story stuff from FF7 and 7 Remake and just changing the setting to be from like adults in the real world to a high school setting. So again, Cloud very much is that protective person. He wants to impress Tifa, but also like be her protector and be a genuine friend. And he tends to blame himself for a lot of things. And I think that's something that again will come to head in 7 Remake Part 3, not just with Cloud and Tifa, but with Cloud and Aerith, where Cloud will have to come to terms with the fact that everything that's happened wasn't his fault and he doesn't need to shoulder that blame. Now, as Tifa leaves, Cloud emerges from the shadows, and it turns out he was hiding. So we ask him, why were you hiding? He says he wasn't, he was just taking a break. So stereotypical Cloud, playing things down, trying to be cool, very nonchalant. But as we're talking, Aerith then shows up. And if you remember Aerith from the first episode, she was this big bad bully, terrorizing everyone. But we learned that the reason why she was doing that was just really putting up a front. And she is this genuinely sweet girl who just like wants to tend to the flower bed in the back of the school. And that's what came out, which is kind of allowing her to just kind of be herself more. And on top of that, she did promise Zack that she wouldn't hide that side of her. Zack just wants her to be who she truly is. Now, she apologizes to us for the confrontation that happened in episode 1, but then she turns her attention to Cloud, and she straight up challenges Cloud to a fight. Since technically, with Zack being the first-class brawler, she's second-class brawler, so if Cloud wants to get to Zack, he's gonna have to go through Aerith. And she even invites Zack to spectate the fight. Now, what Aerith says next might legitimately be one of the coldest lines I've ever heard from this character. She straight up says, "I invited Zack so I can beat you in front of your hero." Damn, Aerith. That is brutal. That is ruthless, and I love it. Again, when it comes to Aerith, they're really playing up that rebellious, kind of fiery, spunky side to her. She doesn't take anyone's crap. She's got to settle things, and in this situation, she settles things with fighting, which I think is really funny. Now, Aerith leaves, and we head home, and we walk with Cloud, and we tell Cloud what Tifa said. Like, she's legit worried about him. But since Zack is going to be at that fight, he says, I can't stop fighting. I really have to prove myself, especially if Zack is going to be there. So he apologizes to us for skipping school, and he leaves. Now we cut to the next day, which is day 5. We're on the rooftop, and a large group of students have gathered to watch this fight between Cloud and Aerith. Cloud's there, Aerith is there, and in a last-ditch effort, Tifa shows up to try to get some sense into Cloud, but it ain't happening. But as this fight is about to go down, Barret interrupts, and scolds everyone. And he's had it up to here with these students. He's just trying to get them to take this energy and put it into an effective outlet, which is baseball. He loves baseball. He's obsessed with it. He just wants to recruit these students to form a new team. And he's been disrespected this entire time. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to fight all of you guys. I will not be disrespected, and I won't let some kids beat me. And if I win, you're going to have to join my baseball team. So he fights Cloud, and he loses. But he says, Cloud, I still want you on my team. I need you. If we're going to take down Shinra, I need you. So again, it's a really nice callback to the main story of FF7 with them recruiting Cloud and really needing him not just to take down Shinra, but to save the entire planet. Now, obviously, Cloud refuses, and he says, I need to prove myself. And this is where Cloud actually goes into detail about what happened with him and Tifa when they were kids and they got into that fight with that other group. Cloud straight up says that when that fight broke out, they were actually saved by Zack. And if Zack hadn't shown up, things would have gotten really, really bad. And that situation is what inspired him to want to be strong like Zack and eventually beat him. So again, they're really pulling on the insecurities that Cloud had from when he was a kid and how that's a big motivating factor for him to not only be first-class brawler, but in the main story, be soldier and eventually join the program. Now, without spoiling anything, obviously things don't turn out quite the way Cloud had hoped, but it's a nice, callback to the main story, which they've done a really good job of with this event. Now, Aerith is fed up at this point. She's like, look, Cloud, are we going to fight or what? And they are about to fight until Zack steps in and says, look, fine, Cloud, you want to fight? I will challenge you, but meet me by the river tomorrow, that same place from when you were a kid and you got jumped. Tifa is obviously worried, but Aerith pulls her aside and says, look, this is clearly important to Cloud, so the one thing you can at least control and do is just support him. Now we cut to the next day, they're at the river, Zack and Cloud are there, Tifa's there, she's supporting Cloud because she knows she can't stop him, and Barret shows up and he's like, look, if you guys are gonna fight, at least let me be the referee. Because it turns out he actually used to be a bit of a brawler himself. Now, what happens next is probably one of the funniest things I've seen in a very, very long time. Cloud and Zack get into a fight, but it's not the straight up Ever Crisis turn-based combat system fight that we see. We see two PNGs jumping at each other, going at it in a fight. It is hilarious. It reminds me a lot of that movie Team America with the puppets and how there's like this really silly, goofy puppet fight between the main character and one of the bad guys. It is so silly and goofy, but these two PNGs are going at it. Cloud lands some hits. It's not enough to knock down Zack, and both of them fight until they can't fight anymore. They're both so stubborn. And as this fight is going down, Tifa and Aerith are spectating, and Tifa just straight up says, I'm worried about the both of them. This is clearly not healthy. Once everything is said and done, Zack ends up prevailing in the fight, and Barret tries to recruit Cloud again to the team, to which Cloud says, not interested. But for Zack, a light bulb goes off, and he decides to join the team instead because he realizes the only reason he was ever fighting was because he was looking for that next challenge, something to be excited about. Once he got that Brawler First Class title, there were no more challenges, so things got really bored, he got held back, and it was really affecting him. So why not take up a new challenge and join baseball? Zack then urges Aerith to join as well. She has no experience, but that's not going to matter. They can train. And Tifa steps in and goes, Cloud, like, why don't you join them too? Give up fighting. Zack also eggs on Cloud by saying, look, we can compete for Batter First Class instead. Cloud thinks it over and he decides to join, and in this moment Barret is losing his mind because the one thing he's been trying to do during this entire event is just recruit these kids to play some baseball so they can take down Shinra and be champions. So he's ecstatic. So it cuts to the next day, and instead of the halls echoing the voices of kids wanting to fight each other, it's now echoing the voices of people actually being excited to play baseball. For once, the focus is not fighting. Now what's really funny is Zack knows nothing about baseball, but Cloud does. So it's a bit of a role reversal here where Cloud is going to basically teach Zack, like, this is what we do in baseball, this is how good I am, this is what you need to do, which is kind of a cute look. Tifa, with her family owning a cafe, she brings in some snacks, and Aerith is like, okay, maybe after training we can all go to the cafe. So it's a really beautiful moment. The characters finally put aside their differences and come together and form a baseball team and actually become genuine friends, so that camaraderie that we know of from the main story is there, and it's very well done. Now, we approach the last day, and I'm not gonna lie, this part was actually pretty sad. And I didn't expect an Ever Crisis visual novel high school event to get me to tear up, but somehow they did it. So again, we are a student teacher and this is our last day, so we go around the school saying goodbye to everyone. Starting off first with Barret, who thanks us for our service and says, look, I've got a letter. I'd like you to deliver this to the people over at the Shinra Academy for me. It's from me and my baseball team, so we don't really think much of it. Next is Zack, and he thanks us for getting him into baseball, because without us, he would probably still be fighting and be lost. Aerith also apologizes and says that we are welcome back anytime to check on the flower bed, and by the next time we come back, she promises it will be much bigger than it is now. Tifa also thanks us and then tells us she saw Cloud having so much fun playing baseball that she decided to join too, and she is the team's pitcher and she's having a bunch of fun. Finally, it's Cloud. He apologizes for all of the trouble that he got us into and says that he's really enjoying being on the team, and he thanks us. Which ends the 7th high arc of this episode. And again, it was so very well done. I love what they did with the characters. They, again, dial up their personalities to 11, but they still keep the core traits of who they are intact. Even the relationships and some of the big story stuff that goes down in the main game, specifically with like Cloud's motivations for joining Soldier, but also wanting to be first class Brawler in this event. Tifa being worried about Cloud and looking out for him and just wanting what's best for him. Barret trying to hold everybody together. Zack being the fun himbo of the group, really just trying to mediate things and really coming to terms and maturing like he does in Crisis Core. And Aerith being this fiery, rebellious character that really does have this softer side to her. It was very, very well done, super funny and goofy, and I enjoyed it a lot. But that's not the end. A few days later, we actually arrive at the Shinra Private Academy. And what's really cool is the music here is super good. It almost kind of reminds me of something out of Persona, super funky and jazzy. It's a really cool vibe. But we see young Sephiroth talking to Matt, and they're talking about virtual currency and its potential benefits for the school and for the government, you know, real nerd stuff. Angeal then butts in, much to Sephiroth's chagrin, and tries to give his 2 cents, which Matt welcomes, but Sephiroth is like, wait, aren't you more of a farmer? What does farming have to do with what we're talking about? Which Matt says to him, like, look, a lot of societal issues tend to be intertwined with a lot of other things, including farming. And this really hammers home where young Sephiroth is at this point in the story. He kind of has a very narrow viewpoint of himself in the world and hasn't yet really found out how really connected everything actually is. So he still has a lot of maturing to do. It then jumps over to Glenn and Lucia. Lucia is scolding him because he's oversleeping consistently and he's missing some important meetings. And Glenn's like, look, dude, no matter what, I just can't wake up. I need to sleep. And honestly, Glenn, same, I get it. And the thing I love about Glenn, and we don't see this in Rebirth because we don't see the real Glenn in Rebirth, but just kind of looking at his character through Ever Crisis, he really is a fun character. He is, like Zack, a bit of a himbo. He's very earnest, but he knows when to buckle down. He just wants to do right by people, and he has a really big heart. But he reminds Lucia, hey, I've got an old friend stopping by today. They're training as a student teacher. They want to eventually become an actual teacher, and they're going to ask me a bunch of questions on how to teach. Specifically because Glenn was a graduate of that school, which completely shocks Angeal and Sephiroth. They're like, wait, you graduated from this academy? You, Glenn, the himbo who misses work and oversleeps? Like, you graduated from here? Something's weird with that. So our character finally shows up, says hi to Glenn, and we give him the letter from Barret. He reads it and he gets excited. He then tells everyone, we've been challenged to a game of baseball by 7th High. And he wants to play, but everyone quickly throws cold water on that entire sentiment because they're like, look, dude, we don't even play baseball. And you used to be a baseball coach, but everyone got fed up with your shenanigans and they quit the team. So what are we going to do? We have no team. Glenn says, well, that's about to change because you guys are going to be the team. Obviously, none of these people have ever played before, but Glenn assures them that they don't need just the physical side to beat 7th High. They could outsmart everyone on that team in their sleep. Again, these are the privileged private school kids, the honor students, the ones that go above and beyond. Sephiroth in this moment realizes once Glenn puts his mind to something, you can't talk him out of it, so they might as well join. And on the plus side, this could broaden their horizons and maybe teach them a thing or two. So while Sephiroth still has that narrow viewpoint, he's not always so close-minded when it comes to educating himself and learning about new things. But he can be very straightforward, very matter-of-fact. Glenn then rushes to the camera, grabs us by the shoulder, and goes, "You're on the team too." Which is a big uh-oh because, you know, we kind of have some loyalty to 7th High, so I don't know how that's going to play out. But Matt and Lucia are both pretty excited because they think that this is a really good opportunity for Angeal and Sephiroth to really unlock some hidden potential that they didn't know they had. And again, that very much reaches back to things like Ever Crisis the First Soldier, as well as Crisis Core, where these are two characters that really lean on each other. Well, eventually within the First Soldier, they come to lean on each other. Right now, Sephiroth is very close-minded, doesn't like Angeal, doesn't want to be friends with him. Eventually that will change, and they learn to become not just close friends and co-workers, but pretty much brothers. People that they can lean on and trust for support. And this really shows off both of their conflicting ideologies. Again, Sephiroth is very much like, sure, help people if you want, but don't neglect your training. You can't neglect it, otherwise we're not going to be any good in this baseball game. And Angeal's the opposite. He's like, yeah, we can train, but we should also be helping our team and those around us. Again, Sephiroth is very much like a one-man army. I can do this myself. I don't need anybody. I never have. I never will. You're not my mom. Which brings us to the end of the event with some really cool killer art between the Shinra Academy and the 7th High team that says, "But who will earn the title of Batter First Class? And which school will go on to Nationals? The story will continue in the next episode, Play Ball." Or will it? Which to me, that says that's where this entire event will end. I don't think there actually will be a Play Ball. I think this was just meant to be like a silly one-off event that was, again, in that style of a visual novel, taking the characters, putting them in a high school setting with high school problems. And I think it's really about the journey of these characters putting their differences aside, joining the baseball team, and then the big game plays out off screen. And I kind of like that. It's really the journey of that that's most important. I don't need to see the actual baseball game playing out. I don't need to see who wins, because the setup was just so much fun. So I think that is where this ends. I don't think there actually will be an episode Play Ball, which if there is, I'm still gonna check it out. I'm sure it'll be fun, but like I think this is, as far as I know, like the actual end of the event. And the entire Ever Crisis event itself, the episode Brawler, Ever Crisis Academy 7, was so much fun. I love how it kept the spirit of the characters and the story of FF7 as well as the remake trilogy. And again, I like to use the phrase dials it up to 11. It jazzes it up, it throws some spices and flavorings in there, and just makes it really funny and goofy and just allows the characters to be kind of, not necessarily caricatures of themselves, but it just really kind of heightens who these characters are while still staying true to their core concepts of who they are, their motivations, what they've been through in the main series. It was a ton of fun. And in a certain way, it also is kind of a bit of a tease to 7 Remake Part 3 with, you know, Cloud finally coming to terms with a lot of his trauma, putting himself back together. He and Tifa already have kind of mended fences a little bit in Rebirth and Gungaga in particular, where Cloud like becomes so vulnerable and he opens up to Tifa about that experience of when they were kids and how he feels like he failed her, and now as an adult, he's falling apart. He doesn't really know who he is anymore. And Tifa really just reassures him like, no, I remember now what happened. I trust you, you're my friend, I know you would never hurt me. So that'll come into play in Part 3, the resolution with Cloud and Aerith will come into play. Again, this was just a super fun event, and I hope we get more of these. I don't know if they'll ever, like, again, continue this Ever Crisis Academy 7 stuff, but these one-off events for Ever Crisis have been a ton of fun. Now, the next Ever Crisis event that's coming up is in June, and that's going to be the next episode of The First Soldier. I believe it's Chapter 4 that we're on. Either way, it'll be in June, so we'll cover that here on the channel and see, you know, does Sephiroth eventually get his hands on Masamune? And if he does, will it start to change him? Because we see that that sword has some pretty negative effects on the people that wield it. So again, that's the video. That was the recap of Ever Crisis Academy 7 episode Brawler. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below of this event. Did you enjoy it? What was your favorite part? And who was your favorite character? I am Curious Corduroy. I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.